digestive system. Alright, the digestive system is simply composed of the GIT, which is the gastrointestinal system, or gastrointestinal tract, sorry, as well as all accessories of digestion: stomach, liver, pancreas. Those are good examples of accessories of digestion. Now, how do we define digestion? In simple terms, it's simply the breaking down of food into its component molecules. Talk of carbohydrates, talk of proteins, talk of lipids. Alright? When we eat food that are rich in carbohydrate, proteins, or lipids, when we talk of digestion, we are simply breaking down that complex structure, which is a carbohydrate, into its component molecules, its simple form. For carbohydrates, they are the simple sugars: glucose, galactose, fructose, the monomers, the monosaccharides, sorry. Alright? For proteins, amino acids. For lipids, fatty acids, as well as gray cell. So when we talk of digestion, what we are breaking down is a complex molecule into its simple forms. Alright. I'm Mr. Belama, and today's tutorial we are going to be discussing about the digestive system. Now, what about the digestive system? Many other times that we go like, ouch, I've got the stomach ache. But what if I told you this is not the correct anatomical location of your stomach? Obviously, the question you find me is, what is the correct anatomical location of the stomach? Well, the answer to that is simple: just below your left lung. Alright? Everything that is here is not your stomach. Actually, that is where your intestines are: large and small intestines. Okay, look close to this anatomical mannequin here. This organ you are seeing here is the stomach. Alright? Just below the left lung. Everything underneath here, my belly here, is the large and small intestines. Alright? So the next time you feel an irritation here, don't call it stomachache, call it abdominal pain. Alright? For the digestive system, we usually start from the mouth. Alright? In the mouth, we release saliva. Alright? That works to moisten the ingested food, initiate carbohydrate digestion, aids in swallowing, as well as voice production. Alright, so in the mouth, we start digestion, the breakdown of food. We actually call it mechanical digestion because of chewing. As we are chewing, we are mechanically breaking down that food. In the mouth, we find three types of salivary glands that release saliva. Alright? So it's the oral cavity. The first gland is the parotid. Next, sublingual gland. Last but not the least, submandibular gland. These secrete saliva that contains salivary amylase that initiates carbohydrate digestion. Alright? From the mouth, after we have chewed the food, it starts going down the esophagus, a process called peristalsis. Alright? Until we reach the stomach. The stomach is a hollow organ that is made of very thick, smooth muscles. This is where complete digestion of food takes place. In the stomach, we find two sets of cells: parietal cells, alright, as well as the chief cells. Parietal cells will release hydrochloric acid, whose function is to lower the stomach's pH. Chief cells will release pepsinogen. Function of pepsinogen is It works hand in hand with hydrochloric acid. When hydrochloric acid is released, it activates the inactive pepsinogen into the active form, which is pepsin. So once hydrochloric acid is released, it converts pepsinogen, which is an inactive precursor, into its active form, which is pepsin. And pepsin works to digest proteins. Alright? So that is the work of pepsin. Alright? Now, for this to take place, meaning food should stay in the stomach for adequate amount of time. It should at least stay for enough time for the process of digestion to happen completely. Alright? At the entrance of the stomach, we have a sphincter. Well, a sphincter, simply put, is just a muscle around an opening. So we have a sphincter that we call the cardiac sphincter, which works to prevent gastric content, everything that enters the stomach, from going back into the esophagus. Alright, we've got the cardiac sphincter. At the end of the stomach, another sphincter called the pyloric sphincter, again, is going to prevent this food from leaving before complete digestion. Alright? Before complete digestion. Alright. So after complete digestion has happened, a carbohydrate has been broken down into its simplest form, the monosaccharides. Alright? Proteins have been broken down into the amino acids. I'm not going to talk about lipids because lipid digestion doesn't happen in the stomach. It happens in the next structure, which is the duodenum. So after we've completely digested carbs, carbohydrates, and proteins, we move into the next structure, which is the duodenum. Alright? For now, we're just going to mention it as duodenum. After the duodenum, food has been broken down. We move into the next structure, which is small intestines. And these small intestines have got segments. The first segment, the first portion of the small intestines, we call it the jejunum. Alright? Jejunum, I'll put a J. So, the jejunum includes the duodenum and the first portion of the small intestines. The last stage or part of the small intestines, we call it the ileum. Alright? Now, once food enters the small intestines, this is where absorption as well as assimilation takes place. Alright? So, food now enters the small intestines for what? Absorption. What are we absorbing? All the end products of digestion. Carbohydrates, we are going to be absorbing the simple sugars, the monosaccharides, glucose, galactose, fructose. Proteins, it's going to be the amino acids. Alright? Also, fatty acids for lipids. We are also absorbing vitamins as well as mineral salts. So, all that is happening in the small intestines. Then, from the small intestines, so food will be moving in the small intestines like that, absorbing all those nutrients that we took in from food. This is the reason why they are curled like that. Again, to allow for sufficient time for absorption of those essential nutrients. So they have to stay in the small intestines for sufficient amount of time so that our bodies absorb those essential nutrients. Then, from there, I said the last stage of the small intestines is the ileum. There is a junction between the small intestines and the large intestines, which is the cecum. So this connects the small and large intestines. Alright? Between the small and large intestine, you say the cecum, there is a valve that we call ileococcale valve. Alright? That is going to be allowing for the passage of contents of the small intestines entering the what? The large intestines. At the base of the large intestines, we find what we call the appendix. Okay? Appendix at first we just thought was something that was left out of evolution, but it so happens that the appendix stores some useful bacteria. Alright, say we ate something that had gone bad, appendix releases the useful bacteria to flush out that thing that we had eaten that had gone bad. We develop a diarrhea, obviously. Then, going up like that is the large intestines. Another name for the large intestines is called the colon. So, as we are going up like that, we call it ascending colon. Alright? Going transversely like that, we call it the transverse colon. Going down, it's called the descending colon. Here we are kind of forming an S-shaped part of the colon, and hence sigmoid colon. It's S-shaped. Then we have the rectum. Alright? And eventually the anus. Now, what usually happens in the large intestines? That is where we absorb water and indigestible stuff such as electrolytes. So we are absorbing water as well as electrolytes. Alright? Absorbing them from the large intestines into the what? The bloodstream. We move ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon, sigmoid colon. We have absorbed the essential nutrients, water, electrolytes, mineral salts, bile salts, vitamins. Alright? The end product now forms the feces. And those feces are now stored in the rectum. Keep storing those feces until the rectum is full. We feel the urge to go to the bathroom. Alright? And the fecal matter is going to be released like that. For the anus, again, it's made up of sphincter muscles, anal sphincters. Alright? Two sets. The one that is exterior and the one that is interior. The one interior works under involuntary control. It's involuntary, we have no control over it. The one exterior happens with our conscious control. We're able to control it, which is why sometimes when we feel an urge to go to the bathroom, we're able to hold it up. Even our step kind of changes like that. Why? We're able to hold that feces because of the effect of the external anal sphincter. But you know, sometimes I'm going to be disappointed. You're trying to hold it, then one step and mess ourselves up. Alright, so basically this is the digestive system. Remember, we started from the mouth, mechanical digestion, saliva works to moisten the food that we eat, initiates carbohydrate digestion. Alright? Which was released by the three salivary glands, parotid, sublingual, submandibular, goes down the esophagus, peristalsis movement in the stomach, cardiac sphincter, preventing the gastric content from going back into the esophagus. Because if this gastric content go back into the esophagus, we call it heartburn. Of course, nothing to do with the heart, just gastric content trying to go back into the what? Esophagus. Another sphincter at the end of the stomach, pyloric sphincter, preventing this gastric content from directly entering the duodenum to allow that food to be completely digested in the stomach. Stomach, we talked of the duodenum. Duodenum, small intestine, absorption of what? Carbohydrates, the end products which are the monosaccharides, amino acids, as well as the fatty acids, vitamins, minerals, bile salts, electrolytes as well as water. Then whatever remains forms the fecal matter. Alright? Alright, so having talked about that, we're now going to talk about other accessory organs of digestion which are not part of the gastrointestinal tract but part of the digestive system, because the tract is just a part. So we're going to look at some of the accessory structures that are part of the digestive system, not the tract. What I've drawn here is the liver. Alright? At the base of it is this green guy that we call the gallbladder. Alright? On this side is the pancreas. Now, what is the function of the liver in the digestive system? The liver produces what we call bile. Alright? Produces bile. And that bile is stored in the gallbladder. Alright? Bile is going to be stored in the gallbladder. What's the function of bile? To digest lipids. And where is that digestion happening? In the duodenum. Remember, in the stomach it was just carbohydrate digestion, protein digestion. For the lipids, it's happening in the liver. Why not in the stomach? Because we don't have bile to work on the lipids. Alright? So the liver produces bile, which makes sense, stored in the gallbladder. Alright? So the bile is going to be stored in the gallbladder. If we eat food that contains lipids, bile is going to be released from the gallbladder into the duodenum. So we've got what we call the common bile duct. Alright? Which is the path that this bile is going to use and empty into the duodenum. The pancreas, on the other hand, is going to release some pancreatic enzymes that are further going to aid in the digestion of lipids. After digestion has taken place, we continue with our path, small intestines, for what? Absorption. Large intestines, absorption of electrolytes as well as water, and whatever remains forms fecal matter. Alright, now I'm just going to dismantle our anatomical model here by removing some of these organs so that we just focus on those accessory glands and organs that make up the digestive system. Alright, so remove lungs, right, the heart, lung, this organ you see here is the esophagus. Alright, the esophagus, right, from the mouth, food travels down the esophagus. You don't need this. An accessory gland, the liver. Alright? So, this is the connection here. Esophagus enters the hollow organ, which is the stomach. Alright? Cardiac sphincter closes to prevent gastric contact from going back into the esophagus, causing a heartburn. Alright? Once chemical digestion is complete here, we are having the pyloric sphincter opens to allow this food to enter the next structure, which is the duodenum. So this is the duodenum. So here, you're able to see yellow and yellow. So the connection is something that looks like that. Alright? So from the stomach, food enters the duodenum after complete digestion. Alright? From the duodenum, there is a yellow patch here that now connects to the small intestines. Alright? So that is going to be the connection like that. Enters the small intestine for absorption. Remember the jejunum, absorption of the monosaccharides, end product of carbohydrate digestion, amino acids, end product of protein digestion. We're going to have vitamins as well as mineral salts. Alright, that is the first portion of the small intestines, the jejunum, and the duodenum is part of the jejunum. The end part of the small intestines, we call it the ileum. This is where we absorb mostly vitamin B12 as well as bile salts. So, this part here is what we call the cecum, connection between the small and large
intestines. Ileocecal valve is going to be somewhere there. At the base here we find the appendix. Large intestines were going up, ascending colony, transverse colony, descending colony, sigmoid colony, the rectum, and finally the anus. So basically this is the digestive system. I hope you found this beneficial. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more tutorial videos like that. Stay blessed.